This is the Sidekick Jr from Crazy Tube Circuits, and it's the '80s in a box. But if there was a competition to see who hated '80s guitar music the most, I would either win or come second, because '80s music really turns me off. However, recently I've been getting into it, and this pedal unlocked something that I didn't know existed in me. So let's hear some more from it whilst I do my top 5 tones. Then we'll talk about the pedal, and then we'll talk about how much it is, and then I'll tell you whether I think you should buy it or not. Top 5 tones! Honestly, when I got sent this pedal, I thought, what am I going to do to review that? Because I don't like the 80s. But in researching riffs that use this chorus, delay, reverb, stereotypical 80s sounds, it turns out I kind of do like a lot of riffs from the 80s. But also, you don't need to use this for 80s. Have a listen to this. So even though the Sidekick Jr is 80s in a box, it's also 3 independent pedals: reverb, delay, and chorus/flanger. By the way, I'm using the Hot Rubber Monkey version 2 from J-Rocket. That is a Dumble Marshally sort of sound. And you probably have noticed this as well. This is the XT switch, which works to open up more features of the Sidekick Jr. I'll talk about the XT switch in a moment and give you a little tip that you might not know that could save you money. Let's split the pedal up into 3 and deal with the 3 different effects independently. First, let's do the reverb. I'll turn it off so you can see everything, because that LED is pretty bright. You've got this push in, push out button just there. That's bank A, that's bank B. And that refers to this little switch here. So we've got actually 6 different reverb algorithms. On bank A, we've got plate, spring, and hall. And then on bank B, we've got gated, exciter, and shimmer. To me, they're very reminiscent of the old rack unit reverbs. And up here we've got mix, so there is no reverb, and there is it purely reverb? Let's find out. And then, oh, I should say, down here, of course, we've got the excite knob. Okay, so the mix knob doesn't go totally wet at maximum, it's just a healthy amount of mix, but it sounds about 50-50 up there, actually. It's really wet though. Let's bring it back. Now let's put it back there. Okay, right. Let's try out the 3 different reverbs in bank A. So, plate first. Quite big. We can make it bigger. And we can make it smaller. That's like a bit of a small room on the smallest setting. I like that. Let's go for spring. How springy is it? Really springy. Okay, how big can we make that spring? Really big. All right, what's the next one? The hall. How did I forget that? Hall. I think that's beautiful. What a beautiful reverb. Right, bank B, which is gated. Let's make that big. That's kind of cool. It screams 80s drums at me. So we can use that if you set that time at the right place, or time excite knob, the length, the size of the reverb, to cut off just before your notes. Lovely. Right, next is the exciter, which is Crazy Tube Circuits signature reverb. I think that's the wrong thing to be playing for this, because it seems to be, not seems to be, it is infinite. So it's like a sustain. As I said, it's infinite. It'll go on forever. So that's a beautiful little paddy kind of thing you could do. You could pads. Hang on, let's do it. I don't know why I needed to rock that way when I played those chords, but it sounded beautiful, right? Okay, let's finally go to the shimmer. There seems to be no tails on the reverb. I wonder if I can change that somehow. What if it's one of those pedals where you cycle the power, and then, hang on, I've got loads of buttons to press, and then hold down something, and then put it back on again? No tails. Hang on, I'll be back in a second. Right, I had a look at the manual, and there is an internal switch, so it's currently in true bypass mode, meaning there's no tails on the reverb. Flip that switch inside, it'll give you tails, but it's no longer true bypass. So we'll leave it like that, but it's nice to know that I can flip that off. Maybe I'll do that later in the video. I think I probably will. Right, moving on to the delay. We've got tape, which is out, and digital, which is in. Up the top, we've got the more, which is a kind of, it's the mix for the delay. And I don't know why they didn't call that mix as well. Maybe so you don't confuse it with that. Then we've got the length of the feedbacks. So one feedback being here, many feedbacks being over there. And then this is the time of the delay. That well-known 80s Johnny Cash sound. I think it probably does like solo delay as well. Yes, you got this like... Okay, right, let's try the tape compared to that. Let's stay where we are. So there's short delays for solo thickening, there's slapback, and there's an 800 milliseconds should you want to get big and ethereal, also in addition with the reverb. Let's try out the modulation. So the Sidekick Jr is top mounted, we've got in, out, and 9 volts, but on the right here we've got this socket for the XT switch. And when this little dip switch thingy here is in XT mode, that turns on the modulation. There are 3 modulations, 2 choruses, and a flanger. We've got the dimension, which is probably the DC2 chorus from Boss. Then on the left, we've got the ensemble, which is probably the CE2, or was there CE1? Let's say CE2 from the Boss. And there's a flanger, which is probably the Boss flanger. Right, let's try all 3, starting with the ensemble. Let's give it a little space with some reverb as well. So let's see what these big knobs do. They're the wobbly knobs. Okay, so it's not crazy jet flanger, it's not crazy out wobbliness, but the ensemble is definitely the wobbliest. The flanger sounds pretty metallic, pretty flangy to me, and then that dimension is sort of not as warm as the ensemble, but certainly sounding a little bit bigger. Yeah, it's more defined. Okay, well, I'm using extreme settings, but we'll put it back there. Let's kick everything on. There we go. Right, karaoke with Andy. I promised you I was going to talk about this, the XT switch, and I'm going to do that now. Let's take that off and unplug it. Now, that light's just gone out because you can now no longer independently control the chorus, or I should say the modulation. But with this switch, if I put it on to reverb mode, it's going to be linked to the reverb. So whenever I turn reverb on or off, the modulation is also going to come on or off. And if I flip that to delay, you guessed it, it's linked to the delay. So every time I turn delay on or off, modulation goes on or off. So it's clear that having the XT switch is an advantage because then all 3 effects are independent. But if you don't want to shell out more money for another little switch and you have like an amp channel changer, you can do this. Just plug that into the XT socket, and then for me, A turns the modulation on and off. So there you go. Now let's talk about prices. This is going to come in at around €289 or £249. And this is around €49 or £42. And if the XT switch is too much for you, you can pick one of these up, like a cheap one, for about $10, $15. Anyway, Don't think of this as 80s in a box, and I can understand why Crazy Tube Circuits are labeling it as 80s in a box, because it is. However, those reverbs are absolutely beautiful. The delays are not just usable, but brilliant. The only downside is, if you need a tap tempo on your delay, this ain't got it. And then you have those 3 modulation algorithms, which should cover most of your chorus and flanger needs, unless you need something jet flangery, which this doesn't do. But imagine having this pedal alone in your effects loop of your amp. You've got a reverb, you've got a delay, you've got modulation. That's pretty much all most people need in their effects loop, or for those different types. And this goes from nice and sensible to way out wacky and ambient, he says, without testing. Let's test it. Right, plug that XT switch back in and put it back, and we'll try something ambient. Right, let's go for shimmer, of course. And we want bank. Yeah, that's that one. Let's do that one all up there, that one there. And let's do tape, because we're nice and lo-fi, and whack those up. And let's also give it the ensemble, that big sort of that one. Turn it all on. Oops. See what it sounds like. It does it. So you've got ambience there as well. Do some nice pads, and if you want to call them 80s pads, you can. Now you might be wondering, what is the difference between this, the Sidekick Jr, and the original Sidekick Senior, they're now calling it? So Crazy Tube Circuits wanted to put the Sidekick in a compact format, and in doing so, I think they've succeeded by keeping most of the features of the original Sidekick. The biggest noticeable thing that's missing is the headphone output and the cab simulation, but they did this because they asked the people that bought the Sidekick what are their favorite features, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that most people that had the Sidekick had a better cab simulator and a better headphone out on a different pedal or on the amp. So it makes sense just to get rid of it and make the pedal smaller. And even though this is called the Junior, which implies that it's less than, it's actually more powerful than the original. The algorithms are new and they are better because the Sidekick Jr has more DSP and therefore more detail in those algorithms. And one thing I think I've forgotten to point out, if you don't have the XT switch, you don't have to have the chorus on, because you can leave that in XT mode and now you've just got delay and reverb without chorus, but then you can stick it back in, of course. Let's have a quick look inside and find that little dip switch, shall we? Decided to get myself a scientist jacket to look the part, so at least if I don't know what I'm doing with the insides of a pedal, I can kind of look like I do. Right, there's the switch that you can't accidentally switch over, because that is tiny. Can I switch that with a... No, I can't even switch that with a pick. Get my little Ibanez tool. There we go, now we've got tails. The major advantages of this pedal, in my opinion, are the fact that it's got 3 independent effects that are all usable. There's nothing on this pedal that isn't good. There's some stuff that's great, there's some stuff that's at least good. And I'd say the biggest con here, and I don't mean con as in trick, but disadvantage, is that to really unlock the best of this pedal, you need the XT switch, which is another almost $50. So if you're going to invest in the Sidekick Jr, and you haven't got one of these little switches already, in fact, you can probably build one for about £15, something like that, but that's going to set you back $50, which is quite a lot of money for a little switch, but matches and looks cool, right? As usual, these are made in Greece, handmade in Greece from Crazy Tube Circuits, and I can tell you that the build quality looks absolutely superb. I've accidentally dropped this actually before I started recording. There's no issues, just as a pedal, any pedal should. So, there are links in the video description right there and in the first comment to buy this pedal. And if you buy it from those links, they're affiliate links and they don't cost you any extra, but it does support the channel, so thank you if you do that. That is a good pedal. And if you're in the market for one of these, not just for 80s, Go and pick one up. Right, there is a subscribe button just there. Smash that, as people often do, to stick around for more from me. Thank you to Crazy Tube Circuits for sending this out, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!